Well, she's taking courses at Northwestern. She wants me to stay with her. Well, no, I'm just sitting in on some classes with Suki and the guys.
It feels so right, it can't be wrong. Rocking and rolling all week.
Did you really know Erin Moran in 1978? The year her life on and off Happy Days was full of strange, unforgettable moments? At the height of her fame, Erin Moran was navigating stardom, friendships, and surprises that shaped her every day. What unexpected turns were hiding behind that familiar smile? In 1978, Erin Moran was at the height of her Happy Days fame, yet she was still living at home with her family in the San Fernando Valley. For Erin, staying home was not about clinging to childhood. It was about the comfort of being surrounded by people who had known her long before she was Joni Cunningham. Her days were filled with the buzz of television production, but her nights still ended in the same bedroom she had grown up in, with family dinners and the grounding presence of her parents. That stability was a shield against the pressures of Hollywood, where young actors often found themselves pulled into a whirlwind of parties and distractions. She would leave for work in the morning like anyone else in the neighborhood, only her office was a bustling soundstage full of cameras and lights. Coming home kept her in touch with a normal rhythm, away from the constant noise of the entertainment world. For someone who had started acting so young, living at home was less about rules and more about keeping a strong anchor in a rapidly changing life. It may have seemed unusual to outsiders, but for Erin, it was exactly where she needed to be. Her mom had one rule that Erin never broke in 1978: no dating co-stars. In an industry where on-set romances were common, Erin's mom wanted her to keep work and personal life separate. The idea was to avoid messy situations that could spill over into filming, especially since Happy Days was like a second family to Erin. She respected the boundary, knowing her mom's advice came from wanting to protect her both personally and professionally. While castmates went out together or formed their own social circles, Erin stayed careful about where she drew the line. She still formed close friendships on set, laughing through rehearsals and sharing inside jokes, but kept a clear divide when it came to anything romantic. Some might have seen it as overly cautious, but Erin appreciated having that clarity. It allowed her to focus entirely on her work without the undercurrent of relationship drama. In a show that ran for years, that kind of stability helped keep the environment light and free from unnecessary tension. Looking back, it was a simple rule, but it may have saved her from a lot of potential heartbreak in the spotlight. By 1978, there was already talk about a Joni Cunningham spin-off, and Erin Moran could not help but feel nervous about it. While the idea of having her own series was exciting, it also meant stepping out from the safety net of the Happy Days ensemble. Erin had grown up on that set, surrounded by experienced actors who felt like siblings, and the thought of leading her own show came with a weight of expectation. The spin-off discussions were still in early stages, but she knew the pressure would be intense if it moved forward. Would audiences follow Joni outside of Milwaukee? Would the chemistry change without the familiar backdrop of Arnold's and the Cunningham house? Erin did her best to stay focused on her current work, but the whispers about the future lingered in the background. It was flattering to think the network saw enough in her character to consider building a show around her, yet the uncertainty made her cautious. She had seen how spin-offs could either soar or sink quickly. For Erin, the idea was both thrilling and daunting, a reminder that success could sometimes be the scariest thing of all. Erin Moran had a knack for making Joni Cunningham feel real, and part of that came from wearing her own jewelry on set. The small necklaces, simple rings, and delicate bracelets she chose were often pieces she already owned, adding a personal touch to the character's style. It gave Joni a subtle sense of authenticity. These were not flashy costume accessories picked out of a prop box, but items Erin herself had picked and worn in her everyday life. She liked how it helped her slip into the role naturally, as if Joni's world and her own overlapped just a little. The wardrobe department was fine with it, as long as the jewelry matched the period setting and did not distract on camera. Sometimes fans would write letters asking where they could buy Joni's necklace, not realizing it was something Erin had bought years before. For Erin, wearing her own jewelry was a small but meaningful way to bring herself into the role. It was one of those quiet details that might not have been obvious to viewers, but it made a difference in how she carried the character on screen. Tucked into the pocket of Erin Moran's Joni Cunningham costume in 1978 was a tiny lucky charm she kept with her during filming. It was not elaborate, just a small keepsake given to her by a close family member before she started working on Happy Days. Erin was sentimental about it, feeling like it brought her good fortune whenever she stepped in front of the cameras. It became part of her pre-scene ritual. She would slip her hand into her pocket, touch the charm, and take a deep breath before the director called action. No one else on set really knew about it, and Erin liked keeping that little secret to herself. It was a reminder of home, of the people who had supported her long before fame. In a job that could sometimes feel overwhelming, the charm was a quiet source of confidence. Even on hectic filming days, that simple object helped her center herself. It was not magic, but it gave her a sense of grounding, and that was just as powerful. In 1978, Erin Moran's life on Happy Days overlapped with her family life in an unexpected way. Her real-life brother auditioned for a part on the show. He was not aiming for a big recurring role, but the idea of having another Moran on set was a fun thought for both of them. Erin tried not to get her hopes up, knowing how competitive casting could be, but she quietly imagined how surreal it would be to share a scene with her brother in Milwaukee's fictional world. The producers gave him a fair shot, running him through a quick reading and even pairing him up with some of the younger cast for chemistry checks. Ultimately, the role went to someone else, but Erin was proud of him for going for it. She said later that watching him audition reminded her of her own early days in the industry. The nerves, the excitement, the feeling that anything could happen. While they never got to work together on Happy Days, the experience became a family story they loved to tell. For Erin, it was proof that acting was not just her path. It was something her whole family could imagine being a part of. Even at the peak of her popularity in 1978, Erin Moran took the time to respond to fan letters by hand. She received stacks of them every week, heartfelt notes from teenagers, parents, and even grandparents who loved Joni Cunningham. Rather than letting an assistant handle them, Erin would sit down at her kitchen table or in her trailer between scenes and write short, personal replies. Sometimes she would answer a fan's specific question. Other times, she would simply thank them for watching and supporting the show. It was a quiet, almost old-fashioned habit in an industry that often kept stars distant from their audience. Erin knew these letters meant something to the people who wrote them, and she wanted her replies to feel genuine. She signed every note herself and often added a little doodle or a "Love Erin" at the end. Fans who got a letter back would sometimes write again just to say thank you, creating pen-pal-style exchanges that lasted for months. For Erin, it was more than just fan service. It was her way of showing that behind the bright lights, she was still someone who appreciated kindness and wanted to return it. Not many people know that Erin Moran was almost cast in a Disney television movie in 1978. The project was a light-hearted, family-friendly story that would have paired her with a mix of live actors and a few special effects sequences, something quite different from her grounded role on Happy Days. She went through multiple audition rounds, including a screen test that had her playing opposite a veteran Disney actor. The network was enthusiastic about her, impressed by how naturally she shifted into the whimsical tone the film needed. But when production dates were finalized, they overlapped with Happy Days' shooting schedule, and Erin had to bow out. It was disappointing, but she understood that the series was her main commitment. In the end, the role went to another young actress, and the movie aired to solid ratings. Erin still looked back on the process fondly, saying it was fun to explore a completely different kind of character, even if it never made it to the screen for her. It was also a reminder of how quickly opportunities could appear and disappear when you were in the middle of a busy, successful television run. In 1978, Erin Moran taped a game show appearance entirely in character as Joni Cunningham. The producers thought it would be a fun crossover, letting audiences see Joni outside the Happy Days set and in a playful, unscripted setting. Erin slipped right into the role, answering the host's questions with Joni's mix of sweetness and sass. The other contestants were in on the joke. treating her as if she had just walked in from Milwaukee and left Richie and the gang back at Arnold's. Erin enjoyed the chance to improvise, using the familiarity of the character to get laughs without going off-brand. The game show audience loved it, applauding as if they had just seen a bonus episode. For Erin, it was a refreshing break from the routine of scripted sitcom scenes. She later said it felt like a live test of how well people connected with Joni beyond the usual setting, and judging by the response, they passed with flying colors. The episode became a little slice of television trivia, blending the lines between fiction and reality in a way that fans still remember fondly. Between takes on Happy Days in 1978, Erin Moran had a go-to snack that became almost as much a part of her routine as rehearsing lines: peanut butter crackers. Simple and portable, they were easy to tuck into her dressing room or nibble on while chatting with castmates. Erin liked that they gave her quick energy without making her feel too full before a scene. Sometimes she would share them with crew members or fellow actors, turning a small snack break into a social moment. The crackers became such a regular presence that a few castmates joked about keeping a stash just in case Erin forgot hers. She laughed about it, saying that in the midst of long filming days, those little packets felt like a lifeline. While other actors might have opted for trendy health snacks or elaborate catering, Erin stuck with something humble and familiar. It was a small detail, but one that spoke to her down-to-earth nature. Even with the spotlight on her, she found comfort in something as ordinary as peanut butter and crackers, a reminder that small, everyday habits could be the most grounding part of a hectic schedule. In 1978, Erin Moran quietly made a Blink and You Miss It cameo in a music video for a local Los Angeles band. It was not a major studio production, but rather one of those low-budget, late-night TV music clips that would air between shows on local channels. A friend in the music scene had asked if she would stop by during the shoot, and Erin agreed, thinking it would just be a fun afternoon. She ended up appearing for only a few seconds, laughing in the background during a beach scene while the band performed. Most viewers probably did not even realize it was her, but those who did were thrilled to spot Joni outside of her usual Happy Days world. Erin liked the idea that it was a small secret between her and anyone who happened to notice. She never promoted it or mentioned it in interviews, preferring to let the cameo remain a little hidden gem for the eagle-eyed. It was one of those casual, off-the-record experiences that added a playful twist to her year, reminding her that not every appearance had to be scripted or tied to a network project. Sometimes it was just fun to do something because it made her smile. Erin Moran was more involved in the look of Joni Cunningham than most people realized. She even helped with wardrobe alterations when something needed adjusting in a pinch. She had a knack for noticing when a skirt hem was a little off, or when a shirt needed to be taken in to fit just right. If the wardrobe department was busy, Erin would quietly grab a needle and thread, working quickly to make sure her costume was camera-ready. She had picked up basic sewing skills from her mother, and they came in surprisingly handy on set. It was not about stepping on anyone's job, but about making sure the show stayed on schedule and everything looked authentic. The wardrobe team appreciated her willingness to pitch in, especially during tight turnaround times between scenes. Erin enjoyed being hands-on in that way. It made her feel more connected to Joni's style and the process of bringing her to life on screen. In a business where most actors simply waited for someone else to fix things, she liked knowing she could solve small problems herself. Those little adjustments might not have been obvious to viewers, but they were part of the care she put into her work. Off-camera. In 1978, Erin Moran was a regular at local roller rinks, often going with friends after a day of filming. It was her way of shaking off the long hours under studio lights, trading a soundstage floor for smooth wooden lanes and disco music. She loved the mix of movement, music, and the casual social scene that roller rinks offered. Sometimes she would skate just to relax. Other times, she would join in on the rink's fun theme nights. Fans occasionally recognized her and would wave or skate alongside her, but Erin appreciated that most people let her enjoy the moment without making it a big deal. It was an escape from the structured world of scripts and rehearsals, a chance to be completely herself. Roller skating also gave her a bit of exercise without feeling like a workout, and she often joked that it kept her energy up for the fast-paced banter Joni was known for. The rinks became a kind of second home for her, a low-pressure environment where she could laugh, stumble, and just enjoy being a young woman in the late 70s. For Erin, those nights were as much about freedom as they were about fun. One hectic week in 1978, Erin Moran nearly missed a Happy Days taping because of Los Angeles traffic. She had left home with what she thought was plenty of time, but a sudden freeway closure turned her commute into a standstill. As the minutes ticked by, she called the studio from a payphone at a gas station, letting them know she was stuck but on her way. The crew began adjusting the filming schedule, moving around scenes so they could shoot without her for as long as possible. Erin finally arrived, flustered but still in good spirits, heading straight into hair and makeup before running to the set. The other cast members teased her about needing a police escort next time, but they all understood, in Los Angeles, even the best-laid plans could be ruined by traffic. She made it onto the stage just in time for her key scenes, delivering her lines as if nothing had happened. Looking back, she laughed about how quickly the calm of a normal morning could turn into a race against the clock. It was a reminder that even the most dependable schedules could be at the mercy of the city's endless gridlock. Erin Moran credited Marion Ross, who played her TV mom, with teaching her basic stage makeup skills in 1978. Between takes, Marion would offer little tips on contouring, applying eyeliner, or making lipstick last under hot studio lights. Erin soaked up the advice, fascinated by how small adjustments could make such a difference on camera. Marion's lessons went beyond technique. She explained why certain colors worked better under specific lighting, and how makeup needed to be slightly exaggerated for television without looking unnatural. Erin began doing more of her own touch-ups between scenes, which gave her a sense of independence on set. It also deepened her bond with Marion, who she already admired as a role model. The two would often share a mirror, chatting and laughing as they worked side by side. For Erin, those moments were both practical and personal, blending mentorship with genuine friendship. She carried those skills into later projects, confident in her ability to present herself well on camera. Learning from someone she respected so much made the process even more special. It was one more way Marion helped guide her through the world of television with grace. If you enjoyed uncovering these unexpected Erin Moran moments from 1978, share the weirdest one you never knew in the comments, give that like button a Joni-style wink, and subscribe so you never miss another trip back to TV's golden years.